India and Pakistan. We are now seeing the damage after India bombed sites inside Pakistani-controlled territory last night. This was in response to a recent...
Check my previous messages. This is a huge oversimplification of Kashmir. Hari Singh basically treated the Kashmiris as serf slaves, as I mentioned last time I was on the show. Yes, I don't know where this goes, but considering that these are both two nuclear armed nations, I feel like can't escalate beyond this, even though I do feel as though right now we're entering a new territory where international human rights is in the pooper. Previously, it was only America that got to violate international human rights, and Israel by extension of America, and sometimes other allies of America, as long as like the people that they were killing were powerless. The new world order beyond that is officially becoming everyone gets to do America shit now in their own way, in their own backyard. Like what India did in retaliation to Pakistan is crazy. You can't just conduct a counterterrorism operation and strike civilian targets on a sovereign nation's territory, on sovereign soil. Likely, Pakistan will respond in kind using cruise or ballistic missiles to strike targets inside of India proper and Indian administrated Kashmir, as India struck both inside of Pakistan proper and Pakistan administrated Kashmir. Every country is just now doing crazy stuff. India thinks it's inside the club. India has always thought that it is inside the club. India literally assassinated Sikh activists that existed on Canadian soil, on sovereign soil in the Western world. Is completely ridiculous. We can and we will. They were not civilian targets. You would understand if you lost a loved one to terrorists. I like that everyone turns into Israel the moment that it's like an issue. It doesn't matter what their perspective is. It doesn't matter how they're guided or rooted in empathy in their worldview. It literally, everyone turns into like, no, these are all terrorists and it is what it is. Like, it's perfectly permissible to conduct a military operation on foreign soil without the go-ahead of the country itself. Even if there are actual terrorists, okay? Like straightforward, rugged terrorists that India was striking, you can't do that without permission from the sovereign nation that you're striking. And it's not just like India mirroring Israel. Everyone is doing this. Like every country is doing this. Pakistan has vowed retaliation. I don't know what that looks like yet, but the attacks that Pakistan launched in Poonch don't count. Indians aren't seeing straight. They've become bloodlust. They can't see the consequences of this. Indian cities will be attacked now. I've been jumping up and down. Look, this guy's response is, the USA conducted an operation to catch Osama bin Laden inside Pakistan. Yeah, bro. First of all, what are you? That's my point. India thinks it's doing America shit. India can't do America shit. America shouldn't be doing America shit, let alone India doing America shit. That's what I'm saying. Why would a country give permission to another country to strike them? It depends on what the military action looks like. I don't think Pakistan would allow India to enter Pakistan airspace and just like strike deep into or any part of Pakistan territory. But here, let's just continue with the story for now.
Terror attack. Pakistan says dozens are dead. Rami Inocencio has the latest on this.
Strategic U.S. partners on the brink of war again. Indian missiles overnight slammed into Pakistan-controlled territory. Delhi unleashed more after sunrise in what it called Operation Sindoor, destroying what it said were 9 terrorist campsites. Taking revenge against Pakistan for gunmen who 2 weeks ago massacred 26 people, mostly Hindu men, at a tourist hotspot here, high in the Himalayas, in the disputed Kashmir region, which both India and Pakistan claim. President Trump weighed in.
It's a shame we just heard about it. I guess people knew something was going to happen based on a little bit of the past. They've been fighting for a long time.
The two nuclear-armed neighbors have fought 3 wars over Kashmir, killing at least 10,000 people since the 1940s. And now with dozens more dead and wounded, Bharat Mata ki Jai! Bharat Mata ki Jai! Indians celebrating retaliation, Pakistan claiming it downed 5 Indian aircraft and vowing more retribution. Tensions are again spiraling out between the two, fighting and dying over land.
And India is holding mock security drills today, prepping for Pakistan to launch a counterattack. These include air raid sirens, simulations for blackouts if they occur, and rehearsals for evacuation across the country.
It's what the world feared and Pakistan expected. Loud explosions filled the sky in the early hours of the morning in Pakistan's controlled territory of Kashmir. Pakistan claims people were killed, including a child, and several injured, describing the attack as a blatant act of war. India says they hit terrorist infrastructure.
I'm from India, watching from India, but they say no civilian has been killed. They have targeted terrorists. I'm totally okay with your Palestine and Israel perspective, but India never targets innocent civilians. All states target innocent civilians, okay? The notion that India doesn't target innocent civilians is insane. What are you talking about? Like, look at the headline, dude. Pakistan officials say 26 civilians killed in attack.
Defense Ministry released a statement saying altogether 9 sites have been targeted.
It's crazy.
Our actions have been focused, measured, and non-escalatory in nature. No Pakistani military facilities have been targeted. India has demonstrated considerable restraint in selection of targets and methods of execution. These steps come in the wake of the barbaric Pahalgam terrorist attack, in which 25 Indians and 1 Nepali citizen was murdered. We are living up to the commitments that those responsible...
Yeah, Pakistan run health agency, just like Hamas run health agency, I guess. Like, is this going to turn into Hindutva fascists versus Muslims? Therefore, the Western world's attitude on it is going to be like geared towards undermining the Muslim side to be like, well, it's Pakistan. They're Muslim. Obviously, they're freaking lying, right? Like, I suspect that is what, like, the angle is going to be. I don't know why, but Mossad tweet that no aircraft is shoot down.
Responsible for this attack will be held accountable. Pakistan Air Defenses says they have downed Indian planes. Those claims have not been confirmed. There has been intense shelling and firing across the line of control.
A Muslim captain from India led this, so don't call this Hindu versus Muslim. Oh my God. I'm going to keep it $150 with all of you guys, okay? The more you talk about it like this, the more I'm beginning to develop a level of resentment, because this is literally turning into Indian Hasbara. Are you going to act like Modi is not a Hindutva fascist? Like, what are we doing? What? You're really going to ignore Pakistan's strategy of sponsoring these groups, which was actually taught to them by the USA Daddy against Soviets in Afghanistan? No. The former defense minister, I believe that was his title, openly admitted to that. Both of these countries do the exact same thing where they try to instill separatist movements. The ethno-nationalist slogan for Indian Hindus was literally trending on Twitter last night. She's about to get mega fashy real quick.
Pakistan has a right to respond. Pakistan will respond. As I've said before, we had an apprehension that India will attack. Pakistan has never struck first, but we have the right to self-defense.
Kashmir is the crown over which the 2 nuclear-armed neighbors have fought several wars and are in a perpetual state of tension. These attacks can soon become a flashpoint that the world needs to be worried of its consequence.
Well, Neville joins us live now. Neville, I guess the first question is, put in context for us the scale of military engagement we've seen in the last 24 hours.
Well, this is a sort of a nuclear flashpoint. Kashmir has been called that. The 2 nuclear-armed neighbors had several wars over Kashmir. There's been skirmishes. There's been sort of eye-to-eye, eyeball-to-eyeball military soldiers looking at each other, and along the 740-kilometer line of control in Kashmir, there has been...
The Pakistan-based leader of a militant group has said 10 of his relatives have been killed in a missile strike by India. Doesn't attack citizens, by the way. Yeah, I know. A chatter actually linked this to me to say, no, this is confirmation that they are only striking terrorists. Ironically enough, they didn't realize that this is actually a confirmation that they're not only striking terrorists, that they're actually killing civilians. This only works if you are like, oh, well, they're relatives of militant leaders. Well, I guess they're fucking, open targeting now. Like, I guess they can do that then. You can just die. It's fine. The Pakistan-based leader of a militant group has said 10 of his relatives have been killed in a missile strike by India. Masood Azhar, chief of Jaish-e-Mohammed, Jem, said his older sister and his husband, his nephew, his nephew's wife, his niece, 5 children from his family were killed in a strike on a mosque in Bahawalpur, Pakistan. India launched strikes on sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir on Tuesday night. Islamabad called the strikes a heinous act of aggression. Ro Khanna defended India. India took a response that helped take out some of the terrorist networks. Are you joking? Come on, dude. What the hell is going on? What is this? Dog, Ro Khanna met with Hindu nationalist commentator Abhijit Iyar Mitra. This is nothing new to me. What?
Firing, shelling, small arms fire since the time the attack happened on the tourists in Pahalgam on the 22nd of April. They've been continuous firing across the line of small arms fire, but now overnight we've seen these heavy shellings. India has said that a number of people have been killed and also a number of homes have been damaged in the Kupwara region. Now, we can't confirm that, but across the line as well, there's been information of damage.
Do I think China will try to interfere in a significant way? Yes. This is happening in their backyard. This is incredibly threatening to their global stability initiatives. So yes, I do think that they will try to intervene. India plays a very important role in America's trade agenda. India is supposed to be our guys over there in terms of like a manufacturing hub that we can use as we try to get everyone else to decouple from China. Congressman Ro Khanna slammed for meeting Hindutva ideologue on India visit. Analysts say Khanna's meeting shows that he doesn't want to alienate the Hindu Indian diaspora vote bank in the U.S. It's weird because Pakistan also is close to a vassal state in terms of American interest, especially its intelligence community. Like its intelligence agency is what dominates the country. We have interests in both sides of this conflict. America is involved with both parties in this conflict. Obviously, with India, we have more, I guess we have like the manufacturing interests, and they're very important to our trade agenda because, yeah, Pakistan is basically a friendly with both America and China. It's a holdover from the Kissinger days. Yeah. It's crazy because remember when I used to joke about how like, oh, America should just arm Hamas and then also Israel, arm both sides, and you come out on top. Both sides are now buying your weapons. That's basically India versus Pakistan to some degree. Like both sides are to a certain degree using our weapons against one another. Unlimited money glitch unlocked. Masood Azhar, the man who brought jihad to Britain. This is the guy whose family died. His family got wiped out. Masood Azhar today heads one of Pakistan's most violent militant groups, was once the VIP guest of Britain's leading Islamic scholars. Regardless of his like fundamentalist attitudes or whatever, you probably shouldn't be able to wipe out his entire family, considering that, you know, this is just his family. There's children. How do we decide that this is an appropriate military target? Like, what is going on? Also, it's not just a Hindutva fascist thing, to be fair, because I feel like, I mean, I read a report from the Communist Party, and they also authorized this military strike. And I thought those guys were at least supposed to be a little bit more critical, even though Arun had told me that they were not. We're going to have so many 9/11s in 10 years, man. Too many sites of blowback. India launched strikes on sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir on Tuesday night. Islamabad called the strikes. We already covered that. China said they support Pakistan. Pakistan is their only escape if they get besieged in the sea. The main reason the West is all over India is because they want to use India to fight China. I think so too. If I'm going to look at it from a reductive perspective and like look at what America's interests are, long before any of this, CPIM was throwing out people of the party for disagreeing with India committing war crimes against Tamils
and killing of civilians. Now, it has been escalating, this tension between the two countries after the killing of the 26 people in Pahalgam on the 22nd of April. And since then, the country here is angry. They have been asking for some sort of revenge, and we've heard from Prime Minister Modi in several of his public statements saying that the perpetrators of that horrendous attack will be punished, and their backers, and they will be sought till the ends of the earth, and they will be punished. And we've seen that happening, in sort of the retaliation coming overnight in the Kashmir region. The difference this time from the 2019 surgical strikes in Balakot in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, which India had conducted, this time there has been a bit more not only in the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, but also across the international border, which makes it even more dangerous now. The attacks have taken place in sovereign Pakistan, and therefore the toning up of this escalation is quite high. We understand there's going to be a press briefing very soon by the Indian Defence Ministry, which further details of this. But at the moment, the tension's very high between the two countries. Just a few minutes ago, the Foreign Minister of India has put out a statement on X saying the world must show zero tolerance for terrorism. And this is what India has been talking about. The terrorist launch pads and their sympathizers and terrorists will be brought to account.
Just received confirmed reports that India has attacked civilian targets, including a mosque and residential accommodation on 5 locations in Pakistan. And as per the initial report...
Chatters that keep saying this is like Israel versus Gaza. It's not. And this is not Israel versus Israel either. This is like Israel versus Iran, except Pakistan's involvement is loosely identified, even though there is historical reference to jihadist elements or Salafist elements like growing in and getting training inside of Pakistani borders as a direct consequence of America's interest in the region, specifically in Afghanistan and elsewhere. But this would be closer to Israel versus Iran rather than Israel versus Israel or Israel versus Gaza. It's an infinitely more terrifying prospect considering that these are both nuclear powers. It's not even Israel versus Iran because Iran has a more direct line for logistics and training for all of the militancy against Israel and against the United States of America in the region. Pakistan literally trained Islamist militants and killed the leftist movement in Kashmir. That's why the Kashmir military groups are right-wing fundamentalists. Describing things to Americans, imagine the few countries you know. Yeah, don't worry. I'm going to start using burger analogies in a second too. Why would India do this? It's partially because from their perspective, okay, one, obviously they have a lot of smoke for Pakistan in general, but from their perspective, they look at Pakistan as a unlimited training ground for separatist movements and fundamentalist movements that can get involved in militancy and then sometimes engage in direct attacks inside of India, or as it happened this time around, Indian administered Kashmir, or in Kashmir specifically, where there was a heinous attack directly on tourists of Indian descent.
There are casualties, including women and children. We had an apprehension that India will attack. Pakistan has never struck first, but we have the right to self-defense. And the way civilians have been targeted.
Like, from what I understand, this attack happens in Kashmir. The Pakistan position is that they condemn it, but India is like, it doesn't matter if you condemn it or not. You're fucking training these guys. We demand blood. India moves on and actually strikes both in Pakistan-administered Kashmir, Pakistan-controlled Kashmir territory, and then also inside of Pakistan, which is a severe escalation. Like, you're just striking inside of Pakistan territory. Like, that's ridiculous. So now they will most likely also retaliate. India claims that their retaliation was actually restrained. Let's see what happens if Pakistan returns the favor in a similar measure.
And I have pictures and images of women and children who are badly injured in hospital. So civilian localities, accommodations, and a mosque which has been attacked. There were no terrorist camps. I myself took foreign journalists and local journalists to an area near the line of control where India had alleged that there are terrorist camps. You see, we are the frontline state against terrorists.
You said that you've already received...
I mean, you said nothing's going to happen? No, that's not what I said. I said I don't know what's going to happen.
Images of women and children who have been injured. This attack took place roughly about an hour or so ago. Will you be taking international and local journalists to the sites? Because in the past, when Pakistan has made such claims,
fuck! This interview has 4.3 million views in 18 hours.
they haven't allowed any journalists.
I'll stop you right there. I had planned to take them tomorrow morning. We had a plane ready. We had reached out to journalists. We had a confirmed itinerary, a confirmed plan to go to Bahawalpur tomorrow. I think unfortunate step by India. We condemn it. We are responding. But to target civilian population, it's extremely unfortunate.
Just to point out, Minister, the Indian armed forces say that altogether 9 sites have been targeted, that they haven't hit any Pakistani military facilities. These are terrorist camps that they are hitting.
Let me make it very clear. There are no terrorist camps in Pakistan. Pakistan is a victim of terrorism. When we had the Jafar Express hijacking, an intense hijacking incident, India did not even condemn it, let alone express some concern about that incident. So India has been sponsoring terrorism by assassinating Sikhs in US, in Canada, in Australia. We captured a spy by the name of Kulbhushan Yadav.
Can I just point out to you, on my program just a week ago, your Defence Minister, Khwaja Asif, admitted that Pakistan has for decades had a policy of funding, backing and using terrorist groups as proxies in the country. In fact, in 2018, President Donald Trump cut military aid to Pakistan because he accused Pakistan of playing a double game. So when you say there are no terrorist camps in Pakistan, that is going against what General Pervez Musharraf has said, what Benazir Bhutto has said, what your defence minister said just a week ago. In fact, what Bilawal Bhutto said to me a few days ago, he said that terrorism and funding and backing terrorist organisations has been and was part of Pakistan's history.
Let's talk about post 9/11 scenario. And let me be very clear. Post 9/11, Pakistan was the frontline state, and we still are the frontline state in eliminating terrorism. You see, when we are the guarantors of world peace, because we are a wall between the terrorists and the rest of the world.
I have been to Pakistan, sir, and we know that Osama bin Laden was also discovered in Abbottabad in Pakistan. So these accusations on Pakistan, including your defence minister making the admission, is there. And that is why part of the reason...
What the defence minister was referring to, you see, there was a Soviet invasion back in the 80s. And obviously, we were countering the Soviet invasion at that point in time. That's part of history. And we were allies of the US. So post 9/11, the scenario changed completely.
The defense ministry has said they're ready for an all-out war. As an Indian that agrees with your take, what do you think in your eyes is the best way for India to handle this conflict? I don't know. I don't know. But it's definitely not escalation. It revolves around de-escalation. It's always de-escalation. India is a huge supporter of Russia and buys Russian oil and buys the majority of its weapons from Russia. No, I know. India is in a very interesting place where it's a mediator for it's basically like a holdover state for as a Russian proxy, is a holdover state for Russian goods to flow into and Russian energy to flow into the rest of the world. They're also simultaneously a very valuable nation state for manufacturing for Western interests, especially if Western interests, as Donald Trump has stated, is to remove ties from China. The ball isn't in India's court right now. It's in Pakistan's at the moment. As far as I know, Pakistan hasn't properly responded yet. And it seems like Pakistan has absolutely vowed retaliation. Yeah. Like people are talking about how Pakistan has already retaliated by breaching LOC and killing civilians in the Poonch district. I haven't seen the information coming out of that yet. But I suspect that will not be considered the retaliation. I suspect the retaliation will be a similar airstrike. Like what India did, Pakistan will most likely do to the best of their ability to India, which is crazy, especially because these are, I'm going to stress the importance of this, these are both nuclear armed nations.
Promising retaliation for a deadly attack on Indian civilians. When it came overnight, it was the largest series of airstrikes carried out in decades. 3 people killed here in Muzaffarabad, in Pakistani-controlled Kashmir.
It's not like a you hit me, so I hit you type situation either, though, because India's argument in this situation is that the terror attack that took place in Kashmir, that was directly because of Pakistan. And as far as I understand, they have not shown any sort of direct evidence as to, like, the only evidence that they have in this interview, as she's trying to draw out of this dude, is that Pakistan has historically armed Mujahideen. They've admitted to that as well. Like, on this program on Sky News, former defense minister, I think he was a former defense minister, like, openly admitted to it. But he was also talking specifically about America's interests. This was the very important moment.
You do admit, sir, that Pakistan has had a long history of backing and supporting and training and funding these terrorist organizations.
Well, we have been doing this dirty work for the United States for about 3 decades, and West, including Britain.
He basically says, like, we've been doing this. We've been doing this for you guys. I don't know if it's not that crazy to admit that. It's, first of all, this was done with Western supervision, if that makes sense. Or if he's simply abdicating responsibility away from the hands of Pakistan to say, what do you expect was going to happen? You made us train these fundamentalist elements in the region, and now they're, running rampant. There's multiple different directions that he could be going with that revelation. Direction number one would be to imply that this was done with Western oversight. Another direction this could, another thing he could be mentioning is the Western world made us train these people, made us do their dirty work for decades, and now they're running rampant again to abdicate responsibility away from Pakistan in this regard. Those are the two different directions that I suspect he was going with. Here is drop site news. Pakistan claims to have shot down 5 Indian warplanes and one Israeli-built reconnaissance drone during retaliatory air combat. 3 Dassault Rafale fighters, 1 Sukhoi Su-30 MKI, 1 Mikoyan MiG-29, 1 Israeli-built IAI Haran reconnaissance drone. French intelligence sources have confirmed to CNN that at least 1 Rafale fighter jet was lost in combat. The officials added that France is still investigating the other possible losses of the advanced jet produced by French defense manufacturer Dassault Aviation during the fighting on May 6. India confirmed that 3 aircraft crashed within Indian territory and that 3 pilots were injured, but has not confirmed all Pakistani claims, including drone loss. Wreckage of the French Mika air-to-air missile was found near Bathinda Air Force Station in India, indicating intense aerial combat. Pakistani Defense Minister Khawaja Asif said that the country was preparing for an all-out war on Wednesday, raising the possibility of nuclear escalation, while adding that Islamabad still hoped to find an off-ramp to the conflict with New Delhi that began with a militant attack on civilians in the disputed region of Kashmir last month. Video scattered debris purportedly of an Indian Air Force Rafale and Mika launcher used for firing short-range air-to-air missiles in Bathinda. Can't even hit Pakistan without losing your Jezlum out? I mean, dude, come on. They also have a competent military and surface-to-air missile systems. Yeah, this is state versus state. It's a little different. I think we've gotten too used to, like, America, the most powerful military on the planet, lasering dudes in sandals, and too used to Israel, backed by the most powerful force on the planet, lasering fucking entire families inside of mosques and hospitals and shit. When you actually engage in state versus state combat, it looks a little different. This is even scarier to some degree than, like, Ukraine, which is operating as a U.S. proxy in this regard against Russia, which is unjustifiably invading Ukraine. Ukraine has a lot of limitations in terms of what kind of defenses they can implement against Russia, because America has consistently told them what they can and can't do. There's evidence that it was Chinese air-to-air missiles fired by Pakistan that shot down the Indian jets. Confirmed, Pakistan used Chinese long-range air-to-air missile PL-15E against India. Parts of the missile fell in Hoshiarpur, Punjab, India. Photo first and second provided by Indian media. The PL-15 has a range of 200 to 300 kilometers for the domestic version and about 145 kilometers for the export variant used by Pakistan. It reaches speeds over Mach 5 using a dual-pulsed solid propellant rocket motor and features advanced guidance with an active electronically scanned array, radar seeker, and mid-course data link support. The PL-15 is a cutting-edge missile that significantly boosts Pakistan's beyond visual range air combat capability. Chinese stocks rose sharply after display of apparent efficacy in India-Pakistan aerial confrontation. Pakistan and China jointly produced several aircraft. To be honest, regardless of the aircrafts, Pakistani pilots were always really good. During the Arab-Israeli wars, Bangladeshi and Pakistani pilots shot down several Israeli jets. Very underrated force. I've heard this as well. It feels like it will likely be a minor scrape-up. There's not rationale for true war that I've seen. What exactly is non-negotiable between the two? Seems like India just needed to send a strong message to their citizens, but I don't know. There is an escalation coming from one side as opposed to the other. It's terrifying. And what's worse is there's unfortunately a lot of warmongering right now in India leading up to this. And now there's warmongering out of Pakistan as well. Indians are not understanding the implication of India attacking Bahawalpur or Sialkot at all. Is Pakistan the main aggressor here? Well, if you think that the fundamentalist groups that did this attack are directly operating under the Pakistani directive, something that the Indian government has not presented enough verifiable evidence on thus far, then this is Pakistan hitting first and then India striking back. I don't think that is confirmed. The fact that they struck inside of Pakistan is an escalation for sure. Like, it moves the conflict beyond occupied Kashmir territory. In my opinion, that is a severe escalation. And this is the Pakistani defense minister responding to what they will do, vowing revenge.
At this point, I mean, is further conflict on the horizon? Are you concerned about a direct conflict, a war at this point?
Yeah, there is a possibility of this conflict, expansion of this conflict.
Hasan, you can't go to Houthi jihadists, Pakistani jihadists. What? Hasan, you now can't go to Houthi jihadists, Pakistani jihadists, Gaza jihadists. Where will the cheerleader for jihadists next? You can't even write anything. Jihadists in Gaza jihadists. Yeah. Houthi jihadists and Gaza jihadists. That's right.
Conflict into a full-fledged war, which we are trying to avoid. But last night, they crossed the international boundary. We have working boundary, international boundary, and control line.
Like, calling Zaidi Shias and a nationalist emancipatory movement jihadists is so funny, because you basically are openly recognizing, openly admitting that your position is they're just Muslim. That's it. There are no differences between Muslim groups. The entire Pakistani nation is also Muslim and therefore jihadist. Everyone is a jihadist. Like, it's basically a more appropriate but still very racist substitute for calling them sand N-words or something.
So the other two are, they involve disputed territories. But crossing the international boundary, this is the clear-cut violation and invitation to expand the conflict, and maybe, convert it into something much more wider and much.
So for the record, also, this isn't like a good dude either. Okay, I'm not gonna sit here and be like the Pakistan position here is the appropriate one, correct one. I'm not saying that either. Before people freak out, India has escalated. That is just a fact. India escalated and brought the conflict into Pakistan borders beyond occupied Kashmir territory, and in doing so, severely escalated this conflict. And they did it without revealing any, as far as I've seen, and I might be wrong, but I don't know if they have like verifiable, confirmed evidence as to a direct involvement from Pakistan beyond saying, well, these guys train inside of Pakistan's boundaries, and that Pakistan lets these dudes loose on Indian territory. Of the 9 Indian airstrikes conducted in Pakistan earlier today, 8 targets were revealed in India's official press release. These locations have since been geolocated and mapped in visual, providing an insight into the cross-border operation. Asmin is saying India is right, too based. That's not surprising. India just started investigating after attacking Pakistan. NIA, the National Investigation Agency of India, appeals to people to share information on the Pahalgam terror attack, releases phone numbers. Bro, you're supposed to do this. You are a terrorist for supporting Pakistan.
India said it was targeting terror camps.
They attacked innocent, unarmed civilians. There is no truth to their claims. There were no such activities here. We live here. We've never seen anything like that. They just did this to spread fear and assert their aggression.
India says it hit 9 terror-related targets, that it showed restraint by avoiding military and civilian sites. But Indian missiles struck deep into Pakistan itself, well beyond Pakistani-controlled Kashmir. This was Bahawalpur, where India said it hit a compound belonging to the militant group Jaish-e-Mohammed. Another destroyed mosque in Muridka, where India said it struck the headquarters of Lashkar-e-Taiba, another group fighting Indian control in Kashmir.
These actions were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate, and responsible. They focused on dismantling the terrorist infrastructure and disabling terrorists likely to be sent across.
Bombing a religious site first day is insane, brother. India does that inside of its own borders too. So that's a favored classic for Modi. So it's like, that's a thing he's gonna do.
To India.
Yeah.
But with burials
India has done that to its own Muslim population inside of its own borders. So it's not shocking to me that they would do so in Pakistan as well. At least I know about that.
Taking place today after the strikes in Pakistan's Punjab, the heartland of its powerful military, India has delivered a blow to which Pakistan is promising a commensurate response, at a time and of a means, it says, of its choosing. At the same time, it is already claiming a win, saying Pakistani planes shot down 5 Indian military jets inside their own airspace.
The Pakistan Air Force was on full alert, and our jets did not cross the borders of Pakistan. As soon as the Indian planes released their payloads, suddenly our Air Force pilots swooped down on them and shot 5 of their planes, including 3 Rafale jets. And they fell in Indian-controlled Kashmir.
The two armies also exchanged artillery fire across the line of control in Kashmir. As many as 13 Indian civilians reported killed, along with at least 6 people on the Pakistani side of the de facto border. This major escalation in a decades-long conflict, catalyzed by the gun attack last month that killed 25 Indians and 1 Nepali national at a beauty spot in Indian-administered Kashmir. India's right-wing nationalist Prime Minister Narendra Modi, shown in muted images addressing his cabinet today. Here's the task: steering this nation through the most serious escalation.
Bro, some Hindutva YouTubers are going to be obsessed with you now. I'm sorry. India #1, please don't come after me, please. India #1, no one else is even #2. It's #1, please. I'm collecting enemies from virtually every country and every group of right-wing reactionary everywhere around the planet. You know, I'm just catching smoke globally.
In years with its rival nuclear power. Mirror images in Islamabad. Shahbaz Sharif with his grim-faced national security team. Both India and Pakistan fielding international calls for restraint and de-escalation. Both sides also aware of the domestic demand for action and strength.
I wonder if they'll post this and be like, this is anti-Indian racism. They'll be like, these guys are engaging in heinous anti-Indian racism to hit the Israel line. You know what I mean?
Protesters in Karachi today calling for retaliation against India.
You don't understand the numbers. You think Americans are dumb. Think 3 times the population in India will come after you. No, I know.
And across India, civil defense drills in preparation for a possible attack. The likelihood is that a further Pakistani response would be against Indian military targets. The task for both countries now, delicate calibration of blunt military might, enough for deterrence and national pride, stopping short of full-scale war. The region entering a period of genuine jeopardy.
Well, earlier I spoke to Tuhin Sinha, spokesman for the BJP, that's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's party, and I asked what he thought India's strikes had achieved.
Well, ideally, it was the responsibility of Pakistan to take the kind of action that we did. It's a shame. Pakistan today is a global embarrassment. The fact that we had to enter another country and act against terrorists who had been given a free run shows that Pakistan was complicit in encouraging these terror activities, and which is a point we have consistently been making to the entire world.
Don't you think India needs to provide the evidence that the Pakistan government was complicit, which it hasn't provided yet in the last 2 weeks?
It doesn't matter. From the last 3 decades, this is not the only attack which has been sponsored by Pakistan. 2008, there was direct complicity. What did Pakistan do? Did Pakistan even try to address the issues we had raised?
Yes, but do you think evidence needs to be provided?
We have given.
It doesn't matter is crazy. Like, I'm sorry. You have not provided evidence for the complicity of the Pakistani government. And his response is, it doesn't matter. Maybe it's an ESL thing. First of all, no, he is very competent with the English language. What are you talking about? Okay. No, he is actively going, nah, don't care. There's plenty of evidence. There's plenty of evidence in my mind, and that's it. Welcome to India, Hasan. Our politics is somehow more cooked than Turkey's politics. That is an incredible thing to just openly admit in the Western media, too. Like, this shit probably plays well on, like, the Indian version of Fox News. You can be baying for blood like this, but going on, like, you're not Israel, okay? I need to explain something to you. BJP, you are not Israel. You don't have a sophisticated network of propaganda and NGOs that you have designed after looking at the failures of the South African apartheid. It is what it is. We're fighting a war against evil here. You don't get to do that.
Yet in the last 2 weeks.
It doesn't matter. From 3 decades, from the last 3 decades, this is
it doesn't matter.
not the only attack which has been sponsored by Pakistan. 2008, there was direct complicity. What did Pakistan do? Did Pakistan even try to address the issues?
I think India is so big and has been around for so long and has its own internal caste dynamics and whatnot that they sometimes forget the way they see themselves in India is not reflective of the way that white supremacists see Indians in the Western world. Brahmin and North Indian Sangis think they're descendants of the Aryan race. This literally happened on primetime Indian Fox 1 news network. This happens all the time. Brahmin and North Indian Sangis think they're descendants of the Aryan race. That's why they constantly attach themselves to white supremacy this way.
We had raised?
Yes, but do you think evidence needs to be provided?
We have given umpteen dossiers to Pakistan. In fact, between 2004 to 2008, there was a time when almost on an average every 35, 40 days, there would be a big terror attack in India through bomb blasts. Every time we would provide.
Slowly starting to feel every non-white nationalist account is just an Indian Hindu cosplaying as his greatest fantasy. Every person in every nation will celebrate their nation's victory, except Abdul from India. Hindus won an international cricket tournament hosted by Islamic Nation during the holy month of Ramadan. Who hosts? Pakistan. Who lost? New Zealand. Who's crying? Abdul from India. Radiant Christian, Zionist, Justice Crusader, really dialed in on the latest and greatest of Indian racism technology. All right, let's keep going.
A dossier, they would not act on it. You need to understand this is a different country. This is a new India. It would not tolerate terror activities across the border. And is concrete evidence as of now or not of the particular attack in Pahalgam. Fact is that over the last 3 decades, Pakistan has not acted on the numerous occasions we provided them multiple dossiers with evidence.
When do you think India will actually act on the Indus Water Treaty? When will it start trying to cut that water off?
Well, work on that has already begun. There are 4 new hydropower, there are 4 new dams which have been commissioned, to arrest the free flow of water to Pakistan. But these things are we would not be providing every details on public platform, because there has to be an element of surprise. There has to be an element of speculation in these activities.
What's your allies saying? I mean, in the past, we would have seen the Americans urging restraint and the Brits as well. What are your allies saying to India about possible escalation here?
We want partners at this point of time. We are not looking for preachers. The US is with us for sure. Pakistan does not get the same support from Islamic countries which it used to get at one point of time.
But it does have support from China, doesn't it?
Well, China has been restrained. I won't hide the fact that China, we don't have. There is a trust deficit between India and China. But again, China has been pretty restrained. China has not openly supported Pakistan.
Well, I'm joined now by Hina Rabbani Kar, a former Pakistani foreign affairs minister who pushed for closer ties with India. And if you were in government now, would you be arguing for retaliation or for de-escalation?
God, if I could only contextualize what has happened in our region because of the impunity that has been provided to a belligerent, rogue, terrorist state that India has become. And the spokesperson, whatever his name was from BJP, and whatever he said about India is entirely true. India is not the same India, the India that was a democratic India, in India which was a secular India. This is the India of a man, Prime Minister Modi, who was denied entry into the United States, was not issued visa there because of his record of human rights, of human killing in Gujarat. So this is the India that we're talking about, where hyper-nationalism and electoral gains has allowed them, not once, back in 2019, and even before that. I think it all started when I first started calling the world's attention to India becoming a rogue state, when they decided to do away with Security Council resolutions and re-annexed Kashmir, occupied Kashmir at will, and saying now this is India's territory and no one could challenge them on that.
But it was an attack on Indians that started this round of violence, wasn't it?
Look, absolutely, let's start with that. And you know how many attacks there have been on Pakistanis in Balochistan, which we have evidence that we have shared with the UN, unlike India, which decides to say it has no need to share any evidence. As this spokesperson of that Hindutva party, which is dividing India, which is dividing the region and the world, to be honest, said to you in your own program that they have no need to, because there's such impunity that they have no need to. All they have to do is make an accusation and then strike, go against international borders, forgo international law, humanitarian law, go and attack civilians because it feels it has the right to. So you sitting in the United Kingdom right now,
but why has Pakistan allowed these groups to prosper in Pakistan? Why has it not taken action against them itself?
You are making a supposition over here, and you are assuming that Pakistan has not taken action against terrorist groups when we have lost both civilians and military at higher number than, frankly speaking, any other country to report to terrorist action and to try and protect our country from terrorists. We have repeatedly said to India that terrorism...
Wouldn't this be like if Pakistan held India accountable for like Balochistan separatist movements and then struck directly into India? Isn't that what it would look like? Like if they directly struck inside of India to be like, well, there was an act of terror from Balochistan separatists. No, they hold India responsible for Balochistan separatist movements. Yes. And just like there is validity to the claims that India is making in terms of like some of these Salafist movements, some of the fundamentalist movements are getting training inside of Pakistani borders. From what I understand, there's also evidence to suggest that Balochistan separatists are also in a similar situation within Indian boundaries. The point I'm trying to make is that Pakistan has not struck back into Indian territory in the aftermath of like an attack or something. Like they hold India responsible. India holds Pakistan responsible. Pakistan aren't entirely small being country either, but Pakistan attacking Agra or Ludhiana for Balochistan is insane. Yeah. It would be akin to Pakistan directly striking inside of Indian territory by claiming, well, Balochistan separatists are actually being trained and armed inside of your boundaries.
It's a common problem. It's a regional problem. It's an international problem. We need to put forces together for sane elements to come together to be able to deal with rogue elements. But when the state decides to use whatever is at its disposal to become a rogue state, a state itself becomes a terrorist state, then where do you go other than the United Nations or the Security Council?
Now in favor of
the maximum support Balochistan is getting from India is some couple of millions of dollars. Now does India send its active trained fighters from India to Pakistan to attack Pakistani civilians? You'd be making a mistake to think that.
Retaliation. I mean, you carried out peace talks with India after the Mumbai attacks. But do you now want Pakistan to hit that?
I call myself an indefatigable optimist in Pakistan vis-a-vis India, because I looked at myself as a citizen of the region, a citizen of the world, and saw that entire poverty in the subcontinent, and everything that we had done was not to create circumstances of prosperity, but the other way around. When I was foreign minister, the Pakistan People's Party government decided to start trade negotiations with India to really move away, because I believed I was a generation which was post-1971, and there was no question of wars again.
Right, but
and
should
then,
Pakistan
unfortunately,
hit now? I mean, let's come back to my very first question. Should they retaliate or should they step back?
Should Pakistan wait?
Cursory analysis here, but solid bits of evidence proving that India supports terrorist forces in some Pakistani areas like Balochistan province, providing them with money, weapons, and training. Some sources close to the matter told the Global Times. While continually suppressing some of its rivals and neighbors in the international community with the excuse of anti-terrorism, India secretly funded terrorist forces in Pakistan in various parts of the South Asian countries, such as the separatist plague Balochistan, inciting local secessionists to undermine regional stability through terrorist attacks, they revealed. Obviously, this is a very biased article, by the way. Through looking into historical materials related to the news reports from both Pakistani and Indian media sources, the Global Times found that India has a long history of backing terrorism in Pakistan. India's involvement in destabilizing Pakistan is a matter of serious concern. The case of Kulb Hussain Jadhav, a serving Indian naval officer, is clear evidence of state-sponsored terrorism and subversive activities. By the way, this isn't to say, I need you to understand something. Pakistan has a right to one, rip through the Balochistan separatist movement and then simultaneously strike India. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm simply stating is, if you're looking at state actors on both sides of this conflict, one state actor has increased, has escalated to a degree where Pakistan has not. That's all I'm saying. It would be akin to Pakistan saying, well, there's evidence that you have offered direct training to Balochistan separatists, so we're going to strike Indian targets. Again, it's very similar to Kashmir in that the legit grievances of the Baloch against Pakistan are buried in the broader rhetoric of Pakistan versus India. Baloch have legitimate grievances with Pakistan and Kashmiris with India. Their voices are silenced in the broader geopolitical theater that India and Pakistan are playing. Yeah.
For India to make a next claim at will, whichever parts of Pakistan, inside Pakistan's sovereign territory, to make claims unsubstantiated.
I get this is to say, why don't you give screen time to Pakistan terrorists? Where did the past terrorists live, train, and were born? Has never strived for democracy. India, like every other democracy, has ups and downs, but there's a whole entire midnight between India and Pakistan. She is so full of trash, but they don't have camps in India. Ironically, the camps are still in Pakistan. I get this isn't to say, why don't you give screen time to Pakistan terrorists? Where did the past terrorists live, train, and were born? What did she say that was like?
Unsubstantiated claims and claims that they feel they have no right or no responsibility to give evidence, not only to Pakistan, but even to the international community, because the BJP, Jay Shankar, and Prime Minister Modi cannot take responsibility for their internal security, which is a result of political engineering that they have done in Kashmir in front of the world. If they cannot take responsibility, if they want to outsource all the security problems on Pakistan's name.
She called India a terrorist rogue state? Yeah, I don't think that is up to say. What are you talking about? It is. What are we talking about? So is Israel. So is America. Any state that violates the sovereignty of another nation state, so is Russia. A great example of this would be Russia. Any state that violates the sovereignty of another state and strikes civilian targets is a rogue terrorist state. She didn't even say India is a terrorist rogue state. I think she just said India is a rogue state. But I would go so far as to say, yeah, they're doing terrorism. Also, her analysis on the matter is putting the BJP guy in a very different light. She's coming across way more restrained and way more informed, instead of just simply saying, I don't give a shit that there's no evidence, no direct ties to Pakistan involvement in the terror attack that took place. Who gives a f? They've been doing this for 30 years. We have to get blood. Seems a little crazy to say, especially when you're trying to defend your position in the Western world by presenting yourself as like a reasonable, restrained, sovereign nation state.
And then attack at will and kill civilians, women, children, send them to hospitals in large...
I'm sorry, I'm vehemently anti-Modi and his agenda, but to call India a rogue terrorist state is absolutely incorrect. This is a rogue terrorist action, just like what Russia has done in Ukraine makes it a rogue terrorist state.
Tens of numbers. Which state would you recommend to lie quietly and wait for the next attack to come by these belligerent, nationalist, Hindutva, India?
I don't think you guys understand like what this is doing to previous international considerations that were basically held together by ticker tape, okay? Two states, especially with nuclear arms, are not supposed to directly engage in conflict with one another without like the go-ahead of either sovereign nation. Like there's a reason why countries engage in deconfliction even when they're actually fighting against one another. Like America and Russia communicate flight paths. You understand that? These are foreign adversaries that communicate flight paths with one another. Why do they do that? Have you ever wondered why they do that? It's so that what is happening right now does not happen. And the very fact that even if you have direct evidence, of Pakistan involvement, you still have to be restrained when dealing with these sorts of affairs, especially when you're talking about another nuclear armed state. If there's any proof that they directly targeted civilian locations and harmed civilians, I would agree with you. So far, I have not seen evidence. What do you mean? We just looked at this article. What are you talking about? Militant group chief says relatives killed in India strike. They hit a mosque, chatter. They killed children in a mosque. That's completely insane to do.
Thank you very much for joining us. So how has it all come to this? And is there any player on the global stage who can step in to encourage the two sides to move towards a peaceful resolution. India and Pakistan had only been independent for months when they fought their first war over the fate of Kashmir in 1947. Thousands died.
Chatters, he immediately said, okay, my bad, I hadn't seen that, okay? It's fine.
Before a UN brokered ceasefire.
Muslims count on others' restraint so they can take advantage of others' reasonability, just like China and their blatant theft of intellectual property and processes, and using others to own court systems against them while foreigners lose all legal action in China. Yeah, China, the Muslim nation. Muslims love it when others are restrained so they can take advantage of others' reasonability. Yeah, Muslims love taking advantage of the restraint that America demonstrated after 9/11, where it went on a complete destabilizing mission, tens of millions of people displaced, millions of people killed directly through war in countries that were not even remotely involved with 9/11. So much restraint. So much restraint. When I think about the way that the Western world treats Muslim nations, restraint is not the first word that comes to mind. But then also, I doubly find it hilarious that you said just like China, the Muslim nation of China. You can't even shake this guy. And yet Western nations still accept them in their own countries, in our own lands. What does this have to do with American foreign policy in the Middle East? People think their own state's designation of terrorist applied and withdrawn whimsically are the end-all be-all of who's a terrorist and who isn't. There's a subjective designation by your state, and then there's actual definition of terrorism objectively applied globally. Most countries at the pinnacles of power engage in terrorism frequently and capriciously. Yes.
Left the majority.
So you admit that Pakistan is a training hub for terrorism? Yes, and for the record, so is India to a certain degree, okay? Pakistan has been historically a training hub for terrorism. For whose interest was Pakistan a training ground for terrorism? I wonder who played a formative role in this happening. The thing that pisses me off is that India and Pakistan were essentially countries entirely whole cloth manufactured by the elites, both of Muslim and upper caste Hindu background. If you actually look at who was in the Muslim League in Congress, it's entirely upper caste Muslims and Hindus. The dichotomy between Pakistan and India is entirely fake. Yeah, RSS is a terrorist group in India, dude. What are you talking about? They have significantly more influence and prominence within India. This is, again, not even a defense of Pakistan. I am perfectly cognizant and also very aware of the training grounds and the madrasas that existed inside of Pakistan.
Muslim region divided, with the promise of a vote to allow Kashmiris to have a say in their future. But that never happened. In the wake of a second war in 1965 came the establishment of a de facto border known as the Line of Control, a heavily fortified stretch of military outposts. There have been several flare-ups since with cross-border. And in 1999, an upsurge of fighting in the Kargil district, lasting 10 weeks, was brought to an end by US mediation between the now nuclear-armed nations.
We're going to cover you on 3.
After the 9/11 attacks, the United States' relationship with Pakistan became vital to its war on terror. But America's withdrawal from Afghanistan saw it drop Pakistan as a strategic partner. Now America is much closer to India, seeing it as a vital partner in containing Chinese power in Asia.
Given the proximity of Pakistan and China has played a discreet and quiet role in crises past. But what you're seeing is a chorus of different states engaged, encouraging de-escalation.
We got a 1K dono, anonymous 1K dono, hell yeah.
Not necessarily condemning India's choice to take military action.
And what would China's position likely be? Because China is also in dispute with India over...
I'm realizing how deep nationalism for India is ingrained in me before my eyes in the wake of this escalation. Every point you're making is so logical, but there's an internal resistance within me that's getting sad/mad, and I have to actively work to shut that part off and listen to the merits of the arguments. Just saying everyone isn't perfect, Chad. It's okay to be on a journey. Hell yeah, chatter.
Part of Kashmir.
My sense is that China's risk appetite in terms of India-Pakistan relations is not that different to the risk appetite in Washington or London or Paris or indeed in Riyadh. Most other countries don't want to see India and Pakistan go to war. I think it can be argued that India and Pakistan's populations and governments don't want to go to war. But this crisis is anchored on a terrorist incident and a policy by India that has been in place for some time that said that there would be attacks or a response